Welcome to this session, Chapter 8, where we're going to be talking about the time value of money. Now, the lecture here on this particular video is going to be a little bit shorter because I'm going to also want to refer you to another video that I have out there on YouTube, which is called a primer for the time value of money. And what this is, this was actually a video done for the personal finance class, but I also want you to go over and watch it. And really what it does is it talks through conceptually the whole concept of how do you calculate the time value of money, both present value and future values, as well as annuity streams. And rather than getting into, because a lot of times people get into the formulas, and as you get into this chapter, you get into the formulas, people kind of lose the entire concept of what we're trying to accomplish. So right now, I just want to talk through just some very simple approaches to interest itself and what it means, and just starting off with the very basics, since this is an introduction to business finance, of the whole concept of simple interest. And simple interest is merely the amount of interest that you have earned on any sort of principal amount, and it's taking these components of what your interest that you're actually going to earn is the principal, the rate, and the time, and all of these then are used to calculate simple interest. So, for example, you take $1,000 and you borrow it for 1 year at 8%. Is you take the principal of $1,000 times the interest rate of 0.8% or 0.08 for 1 year. That means that you get $80 of interest, or you're going to pay $80 of interest for 1 year. If it's for 6 months, you're then multiplying it by 6/12, 6 out of 12 months, or 0.5 itself, and that is $40. So the total due on simple interest loans is you're going to be looking at what is due at maturity plus whatever the interest is that you have accrued. So for 3 years, for example, if you have a simple interest for something that is owed in 3 years, you're going to owe the amount of interest of $1,200 or $240 plus the initial interest of $1,000, and that's going to be $1,240. And that is calculating it using a simple interest rate. Now, one of the things that as you go through and you talk about the simple interest is there's a fixed principal commercial loan. And this product is a loan where the principal payment remains the same for the life of the loan, and then interest rates on that loan are normally prime plus a certain percentage based upon a particular business enterprise itself, and banks have different formulas that they bring to the table with respect to this. And we won't get into all of those various component factors. This is where it's important to understand the time value of money itself and how that's actually calculated. There's also a kind of loan out there called a bridge loan. And a bridge loan is a temporary loan, and you see it quite often when there's some sort of transaction that is to be completed, but it hasn't been completed yet. For example, in the purchase of a property, quite often there will be somebody is selling their personal home, and their home that they're selling hasn't closed yet, and it's a collateral on one loan, but they're purchasing another home, which is also going to be a collateral on that mortgage itself. And so quite often you will be able to get a bridge loan where you are borrowing money on the home that you're buying that is going to stay out there until the original home is sold, and then the proceeds from the sale of that original home will then be used to pay down the mortgage and maybe then establish what the final mortgage amount is going to be. Let me make reference to bank discounts, because when we're talking about just simple interest rate, the bank discount rate is an amount of interest that is deducted from the amount that you wish to borrow. And you see the component pieces here that go in. The bank has a discount rate that they apply that is then taken against whatever the maturity value of the loan and the discount rate and the time itself. And so this actually talks about the amount of the proceeds what they're actually going to provide from the bank to the borrower after deducting that discount rate. So, for example, in our example we used before, if you want to receive an 8% proceeds on $1,000, then they may only give you $920 of that amount, saying, okay, you're going to be paying back the $1,000 minus those proceeds is what the net amount is going to be. And again, all of these things are really kind of taken into account interest rates and the time value of money, and you can watch the other video to really get a better sense for what exactly all is going on here. Let me just reference federal treasury bills, because there are situations where business people, entrepreneurs can actually, as the textbook says, perform the function of a bank by investing in a marketable security called a treasury bill. And what is a treasury bill? Well, it's the government of the United States loaning money for a short period of time. So they issue these discounted treasury bills in denominations of $10,000, usually for periods of 3 months, 6 months, or a year, sometimes longer. And treasury bill rates themselves are just an opportunity to calculate interest out there. And again, here is just an example. Don't get too hung up on all of the machinations on here, but what this does is really shows you, and again, you can access the through the textbook itself and spend a little bit more time on looking at this, is you can invest in a treasury bill where you actually are then, through your proceeds, in this example, experiencing 9.5% interest, effective interest rate on that T-bill itself. There's also the whole concept compound interest, which is interest that if you put money in the bank and that money gets interest, and then the money plus the interest in year one gets interest for year two, and then there's the compounding effect of every year you just have compounding interest on interest itself. The video will actually go through and talk you through how that occurs. There's also the future value of a lump sum, is if you're going to get a lump sum of payment in the future, what's that really worth to you today? And annuity payments, the video will go through that in detail. I do want to talk about effective interest rates, because sometimes people get a little bit hung up on this. The stated or quoted rate is the rate of interest that is listed normally on an annual basis, and it disregards the effect of compounding. The effective annual rate is the actual rate that is paid by the borrower or earned by the investor after compounding is taken into consideration. And so this is important to understand, because sometimes you will see certain rates that are quoted, but those rates are, you actually wind up paying more interest than what was quoted. And an effective rate example, a bank quotes 8% annual rate, but the bank wants you to pay that annual rate monthly. So it compounds monthly. And what it actually does is your effective rate that you wind up paying over time is more than 8%. Is because that 8% that's being broken out monthly is over time, with the compounding effect, you actually wind up paying an effective annual rate of 8.3%. So it's important for you to just understand, when you are seeing interest rates that are being quoted, that there may be a difference between the quoted rate and the effective interest rate on an annualized basis. So I now invite you to go and watch the other videos so you can understand the whole concept of behind the present value, the time value of money itself. Until next time.